I love being able to actually manage who I get to play against.
Ooh.
And, like, schedule our own games. I've been doing that recently.
No.
Oof. It lets you, as a coach, be able to frame things however you want so well. Careful, dog. You're going to make Zach hurt himself, dude. You don't want to get him burned, man. Come on.
You mean for your high school team is what you're talking about?
Yeah. Or even, like, imagine if, like, you knew somebody that had a team of the same age group, and you knew that would be a challenge for you guys. Wouldn't it be cool for your team to go up against the better team, even though...
Yeah, I love that stuff.
It may be not equal on paper. I love that.
But the struggle is the growth. The challenge is where you learn. And so if you put yourself up against the Titan, you're bound to find moments in which your team needs to improve upon. So it's worth it every time, especially when it's in-house. That reminds me of what we did at the academy with the Barcelona residency. It's like we did internal scrimmages all the time. And we would play against MLS Next Team as the pre-academy. We know what the scoreline will be. We're still prideful that we can compete. And each moment and where we falter, we're paying attention to. Because we learn a lot from. So.
And you know, it's good that the team that on paper is better gets to have that experience, because they're going to have some of those days where they're going to go against teams that may not be as good as them, but they may be better organized than them. And they may be super hard to beat and struggle and try and actually get a goal against them. So they need to be able to fight the adversity and know, like, hey, maybe we don't get a goal in the first half, in the first 80 minutes of the game. Last 5 minutes, we can still get a goal if we keep playing our way. Something that happened this weekend where my team, this may be a little raw, but I'm still in my feels about it. My team, little bar check. My team stopped playing their way.
Oof.
And they started playing so selfish and so individualistic that I stayed quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
this is not my team.
And at one point in the game, I started saying, "Wow, guys, I didn't even know that, like, if you guys dribbled everybody, you could score a goal. Hey, I learned something today. Good job, boys. Well done." Like,
sarcastic with them even.
I was fuming. Like I was telling you, like, I haven't been quite upset about a game in a while, and that was like the culmination of, like, wow, that was crap, because it was going so well in the first half. We had struggles with starting well, and the boys were starting to say, "Oh, coach, we're a second half team," and I'm like, that's not good to say, but I mean, think about it. In hindsight, what's better, a first half team or a second half team?
Well, I'll tell you right now, my team is the opposite. We're first half, and it makes things really challenging. Because that back 40 could be really, really tense. And if we didn't have an incredibly killer first half, we better prepare for the siege. Because right now, we just don't know what it takes to be consistent for 80 minutes straight. And it creates quite a challenge for us. Like, in the first 40 minutes,
I guess it's the first, like, games of the season for us, too, you know? We can't expect them to be locked on for 80 minutes with a new group, but then again, I mean, they're footballers, right?
I think, yeah, I don't know. It's different for every team. Some teams, they know how to come out the gate. Other teams, they know how to finish the race with a kick. You know, it's just it's a matter of what is your team, and then once you've recognized which one they are, it's not always one or the other. Sometimes you have a team that's good throughout the whole.
Oh, man. What a gift, no?
When you recognize which one it is, you know now what you have to focus on, right? Is, okay, if they have trouble starting out the gate, how do I prepare them in activation more so that they're coming out the gate more prepared and ready to play? Or what is it that's going on at halftime or into the second half where their internal, external motivations are dwindling? Because if you can highlight that, then maybe you can extend the period of time in which they're competing at a high level through the second half as well, and now you're completing the project.
You know who's been the ultimate second half team in the Prem this season?
Who's that?
Take a guess.
I don't want to.
It's the mighty Reds, mate. You know how many points? You know how many points Liverpool has gotten from losing positions in the Premier League this season? 18 points. That's probably half of their points right there.
6 games right there. 6 games.
That is 6 games. That is insane.
Maybe even more if it's coming from ties.
That's
a couple
insane.
Ties. But I will say this. Last week, Arsenal's in first place. I say one thing, he jumps right down my throat. This week, Liverpool's in first place. I have heard 30 things in a matter of 2 days.
Well, it's because let's think about it. And our fans know because they listen to our podcast. We always talk about Arsenal. We always talk about Kai Havertz. We talk about something about Arteta or Odegaard or whatever. You know, we got to switch it up, right? We got to make sure that the fans keep it refreshed.
I'm a big fan of Jurgen. I talked about the warmthness of a coach and how that makes a difference between the coldness of a coach and how Jurgen and Rafa are completely different. I preach for Liverpool sometimes. Like there's a few occasions here. Right now I feel that they have taken points in places that others haven't, so they deserve their placement in the league, but I do not believe that they'll be league champions.
Like realistically, if you had to bet $100 today, we're not condoning betting, by the way, yeah?
No betting, California.
If we're in Mexico and you could bet on the Premier League winner on the match day 38, who's it gonna be?
I got $100 in my pocket, and I'm putting 100 on Aston Villa because I know the odds are gonna be out of this world.
That's a smart bet. I mean, let's talk about right now.
Some money.
4 points separating the top 4. And the unlikely Aston Villa is in that mix. Have you seen any of their games?
I have. I watched the past 2 because they put a masterclass on City, so they turned my attention. And then I was like, oh, shoot, we got to play them next. And they put the same 1-0 on us. And I watched the game, and for the most part, for some of it, like we were okay, but for the most part, they had us in their pocket. In the same way that they had City kind of in their pocket.
Well, organized too, you know. It's just
we talked about that before.
I think Arsenal had like 70% of the possession in the beginning of the game, and they still just organize, calm, take our chances.
Unai is one of the best tactical coaches, I think, in the EPL at the current time.
Probably one of the most underrated in our generation, like in this generation of coaches.
And after they beat City, Pep came in the interview and he was very stressed because they had 3 ties and a loss now. In a row.
Yeah.
It was the first time in 6-7 years, right? And he, in that stressed interview, detailed all of the coaching points that Unai was making in order to make Aston Villa successful on the day, in the game. And it was one point after another. He goes, the defensive structure, the tactical situations, the understanding on game restart moments. How do they organize themselves off the ball? How do they organize themselves on the ball? And it was like, even Pep was like, no matter what we try to do, Unai had a counter plan for it. And that speaks about his tactical masterclass that he is.
The details.
And you gave me a little chirp yesterday or the day before, like, oh, that's your old guy. You know, like, you guys didn't treat him well, you sent him packing. But I replied, listen, that guy got us to the Europa League and deserves respect on his name because he did something at Arsenal that we weren't able to do in the past. And then even though he did do that, we still
put him in the drain.
But the reasoning was that at the time, and I could say this truly as an Arsenal fan, is he was moving us away from the style of play that Arsenal has and had been for the past 40 plus, 50 plus, 100 plus years. We have a style of play that we firmly believed in all the way through the Arsene Wenger times. And with Unai, we were starting to not recognize the way our team played, and it struck the chord of a lot of Arsenal fans. We were like, wait, we don't necessarily recognize our club. Although they're experiencing some successes here and there, it wasn't the way in which we felt we wanted it to happen.
So
we kind of shifted to Unai.
I'd like to talk about that.
I still want to talk about Aston Villa
a lot. Go ahead. And then I'll bring up my point in regards to process and especially that level or that style of play.
Yeah, it's like with Aston Villa, I think the one impressive thing I noticed from watching both of their games was how unparticular they were about their chances. Like, they had 22 shots against Man City, where Man City had 2. And that's because Man City's style of play is they're looking for the positional possession pocket, the pass to the net option, the crosses, the one-touch finishes. They're creating goals out of clear moments. Where Aston Villa is like, if we could take a shot, we're taking the shot. If it's 22 yards out from a bad angle, you take the shot. If you have the backspace, you play the backspace, and he's on a dead sprint. If he can meet the ball, he's going to try to tap it. Like, everything they do isn't particular. It's just about creating the chance and taking it.
You
And
know,
they say
there's
the
a
more
funny
chances they
stat.
take.
There's a funny stat that like two out of the 3 goals from like the World Cup like went through people. Like, you can't expect yourself to be one-on-one with the goalie every time. Like, that's just not, it's not feasible. It can't happen. You have to be ready to take a chance even when it doesn't look good. And who knows, maybe it goes through the goalkeeper's hands, or maybe it goes nutmegs 2 players and then, oh, the goalie didn't see
Aston
it.
Villa's goal against City was a shot taken with a defender blocking, trying to block, and a keeper with his set feet, and it gets deflected and goes the other way. He didn't mean for that to happen, nor was that a clear-cut chance to score. But they had already taken 20 shots, and they were shooting, and so this one chance out of the 22 they took was the one they needed to win the game. So that's why I think they're in their camp saying, like, hey, look, if you can see the goal and the ball's within range, you're shooting it. You're taking your chance. And the more chances we take, the more likely we are to score. And they've been unparticular about it. Now, that's just like in the final third what they're doing well. What they do well off the ball is incredible. They always are getting bodies behind. They're always talking about their structure and the distances amongst each other. Don't get too close. Don't be too far. And they're consistently talking with Unai through the game. You see them all like, oh, getting instructed. Come in tight. Oh, he wants to step. That team is whole. From coach to player, from player to player. They know what they need to do on and off the ball in all phases of the game. So I found it to be impressive because realistically, they're going against league leader after league leader. And they're just going chop, chop, chop.
Making them not league leaders anymore. That's what they be doing. They be knocking people off their perches.
Chop,
and you know
chop.
what was funny is that in the beginning of the season, I think Villa started the season with 2 losses. I know they had, in the beginning of the season, a really ugly loss against Newcastle, 5-1.
Or you talk about Fergie.
Let me bring it up. After that game, Sir Alex Ferguson is asked, "Oh, who do you think is like the team that's gonna trouble you or trouble other teams in the Prem?" And he said, "I think Aston Villa, even though they just got schmacked 5-1, they look good." And
he also said in that interview, they created chances, they just didn't take them. So here in the City game, they created chances. They made one of them convert. In the Arsenal game, they created chances. They made one convert. So it's like, hey, Ferguson, even at the beginning stages, watching a 5-1 loss to Aston Villa goes, what a surprising game of football. Because Newcastle will always be hard to beat at home. But Aston Villa played freaking amazing. Creating chances left and right, they just didn't take them. It's interesting because I was talking about my team, first half, strength. We had a game where we were up 4-1, and in the second half went down 5-4 in the first 10 minutes. And then in the back end of the game, ended up making it 6-5. And it was one of those things where we felt like, well, if we take all of our chances, we'll win this game 15 so-and-so. But for every chance that you miss, the opportunity or the percentage chance of the opponent scoring on their next one goes up. And for every single chance you created miss, their percentage of chance to score increases. And so I always say it like this, and after watching thousands and thousands of games, if I watch my team miss 3 or 4 golden opportunities, already in my gut I'm starting to feel like this game is away from us. We're about to lose this game. Because if we've created 4 and they've created 1, but we've missed all 4, I have a strong feeling on their second, it's theirs. And that's where I'm like, okay, your chances not only convert to your successes of the result of the match, but they also convert to the successes of the opponent's result of the match. If you don't score or take something from the chances in which you create. You get a pen or a free kick, and it's a goal-scoring opportunity to make something of it. But it means nothing until the ball actually crosses the line. If it doesn't, the opponents are going to have a stronger chance at winning the game now. And it happens like throughout the course of the game, 1, 2, and now my gut's like, oh man. And all I can do is get these guys to create another chance. I can't score the goal for them. So then a third one, and then once I see the third, I'm worried.
You know what? You're talking about all this stuff. You know what the topic for this episode is?
What's that?
It's taking your chances. Taking your chances in every single instance in the game, because guess what? There is not only taking your chances in the game, it's taking your chances to get on that team, to get on that school, to get into this coach's environment, to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're at the best place for yourself. And I want to talk about Girona now. They went on and they beat Barcelona 4-2 at the Barcelona Stadium.
Well, the interim stadium.
Calla. They beat him in their home ground, right? Mm-hmm. And you see all the Girona fans enjoying the game. You see Barcelona fans leaving the stadium before the game's over because they were so
disappointed,
so upset at how the play ended up. Because one could argue that Girona played like Barcelona. The tiki-taka, if you want to say the nice way.
No, tiki-taka is wrong.
The tacky way of saying it.
They played Barcelona out the park.
They played their style.
Yeah.
And
positional possession, they're moving the ball, they're keeping the ball, they're shifting the opponents, they're looking for their advantages.
The main thing that I wanted to see from the top team, that I am seeing from the top teams, whenever they have the ball, it's the one principle that must happen. Actually, a couple ones. But they work hand in hand because they're the same thing. It's space. And making sure that you manage the space properly. Because guess what? Just like I was explaining to you before the episode, the podcast, everyone loves the ball. Everyone is like a magnet attracting to the ball like this. Marcelo Bielsa, one of the coaches that I really look up to because he was an accountant, for Christ's sake, before he got into football. He was talking about how whenever he goes and watches football locally in South America, and he'll look at a football field, and let's just imagine this painting as a football field. I know it's more square than rectangular, but it's got that shape where you can have the goals on either end and you have the sideline. He would go to watch a field, and he would see the field be full of dirt right in the middle. And he could see all the grass on the outside of that dirt circle, the dirt oval. And he's talking to some students of his, and he's saying everyone wants the ball. Everyone gets sucked into the ball because of the glamour and the idea of, if I have the ball, I'm able to control the game. The idea of wanting to control the game.
Attention, I think it boils down to.
Yeah.
Attention.
Yeah. And so the main thing that these top teams are doing, the teams that are the league leaders, whether it be Bayer Leverkusen or Girona or Liverpool or whoever, they keep their width and they keep their depth. They manage the space properly, because when they don't manage the space properly, they look like 5 and 6-year-olds. I swear, you look like a team of 5 and 6-year-olds when you all bunch up together. That's like the rec soccer that some people get to experience here in the United States.
Introductory competitive club. Like in the lower flight leagues, you'll see that behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like, you said it almost best, is like, players are like metal, and the ball's like a magnet. And they just go, whoom, to it. And the second that players can prioritize space over the ball, they take a step forward in their game understanding. Because it's so much more about the open space that's available than just where the ball is. I guess one of the first lessons I had to learn about vision when I got to Barcelona as Residency Academy as a coach was, as the coach, I shouldn't even be watching and looking where the ball is and all of the actions taking place in the intervention zone is what we called it. In the space in where the ball is and all the players within the space that can interact with it is the intervention zone. And I was told we want to look away from that zone because what really matters is what's happening in the mutual help zone, which are all the players surrounding that the space right where the ball is, and then the space outside of the mutual help would be the whole coordinative zone. So how do we coordinate ourselves as a whole in there? And as a coach, they were teaching me, look at the coordinative zone, look at the whole, and while you're watching football, and see what kind of advantages come to your mind if the players on the field were considering all three zones as well. Would they all be in the intervention zone then? Or would more be in the mutual help, in the medial? And then the ones in the coordinative, would they come floating in or would they stay out now if they knew and understood what space meant in the game? Now you talk about creating width and depth a lot in my practices. In fact, it might be one of the things I say the most as well, is what are we trying to create with our positioning? Oh, space, coach. No. Detail. Depth, which is the height. Width, which is how wide we're going, right? And so it's all about, whenever we're attacking, maintaining both things.
And they have to work simultaneously, because if you just work the depth, then you're not going to have any width. And if you just work the width, then you're not going to penetrate into the actual where the goal is. That's a problem. And that's something that Girona does very well. That's something that, like, old Man City, like, remember Man City when Pep just started? Like, the majority of their goals were the same. Like, they played out to the wide player that's on the line. He's not in the middle. He's on the line. Please, for the love of Christ. Like, you can even start outside of the line. It's not like basketball or football where, like, you have to stay inside the field. You can come out. You can enjoy and like watch the game, and then when the ball's coming to you, okay, I'm gonna step in. I'm gonna come and play the game now. Like, what do you like?
Whenever we're on goal kicks, right, and it's the build-out phase, and that's where basically it's a goal kick. We all start in our starting positions. The starting positions of the wingers for me is usually high and wide, and they come out high and wide, and they're in the area, and I'm always like, get here now, and they look at me like, what? And I mean, put your foot on this touch line right now. Take the extra 10 to 15 yards of space. You can always go there where you were, or now you can go here, or now you can go there. But the action of taking that space gives you more options.
You know, last week we talked about how some coaches repeat themselves with, like, the simple stuff. That, for me, is probably the one that I hate repeating the most, because it is so simple. It is the easiest thing to do.
A starting position.
And
just be here.
And it's the
when
most
that ball is there.
It's the most neglected thing from a player in the whole game, I feel like, because it's like so basic. They think, oh, coach, it's okay, coach, don't worry, I don't need to do that. What do you mean you don't need to do that? Who are you, bro?
I feel that wingers misunderstand the use of the line. Whereas they feel if they're in, they can go left, right, forward, or back, and they have the space to go left if they're not touching the line. But when I played winger, and I explained this, I think, in a past podcast as well, is you use the line to your advantage and not disadvantage, as if it's another defender for you while you have the ball. Meaning that if I'm playing the line and an defender comes... Yes and no. Yes, either one. It's a regaining of possession for me. Because if I'm attacking and I lose the ball from a defender and he knocked it out, it's kind of like my safety net. It's not helping me attack, it's helping me keep possession. So I looked at it as like a support defender that would cover me while I'm attacking, is the way that I treated the line. And I used that width to then create space going towards the goal. Instead of how often do we see wingers position themselves inland, and when they get the ball, they start moving away from it.
No, you know which one I hate?
But away from it.
You know which one I hate is when the winger starts inside, and then instead of his motion being to goal,
vertical and diagonal towards goal,
his motion is to get wide. It's like, why didn't you just start wide so that your first motion can be forward instead of starting inside and then going wide?
Or now that you're inside, why don't you just go for the vertical or diagonal run, because you're already there now. So
but the angle may not be there, or maybe he's already too close to the other attacker, so he has another defender on him.
So it's one of those things where he's made a mistake already because he's not creating width at the moment. And so now he's found inside, we're limited options in attacking the opponent. And we want to talk about width and depth because whenever you're approaching the final third, realistically, you need 3 is a good number to attack with, 5 is a better number, 7 is of course, top. And the more possession that you could obtain in the opponent's half, the more you can add into the attack. It's all about how long are you maintaining possession in the opponent's half will allow you to then slowly add 1 or 2 more into the attack. But when we say you need 3 minimum, you need 1 depth striker who's holding in the center backs. He's keeping them centrally so that you have 2 wide wingers who are placed even against a 4-back in 1v1 situations.
But on the line, you're on the line.
Width and the depth is created from the 3. And as they come towards the meeting point, which would be the goal since they're the attackers, that's how they come in and meet at the same zone rather than end up in different ones. Then the next phase of that would be you would want to attack with 5. You want to create a W shape is the way that I explained it to my team. The wide winger, the underneath attacking mid, the striker creating depth, the underneath secondary attacking mid connecting the right side, and the right winger. And this shows itself in all kinds of formations.
It is the most prominent one. And you know what Girona? You want to know what Girona's doing differently now instead of, because that's how City was attacking last year when they won their Champions League. It was the 3-2 and then the W.
Mm-hmm.
Now Girona, instead of having 2 attacking midfielders, they have 3 there.
That makes it even more powerful.
It's insane. It's insane. Because they're able to, those 3, one of them is able to drop in whenever they need help in the mid block, or let's say the mid zone of the field, because sometimes they're going to come man for man.
With my high school, I'm attacking with 6 right now and defending with 4. And you've even said it's unsustainable. It's dangerous football. But I like to see when that line of 3 recovers possession somewhere around midfield and is able to break the midfield line of the opponents. I like to see my wingers starting to go, my 9 holding the strikers, and this wave of 3 mids just coming. So then it's like, oh no, it's on. And all 3 of my top line guys are fast, technical, and finishers. So you have to be afraid of every one of them if they receive the ball on the final line. But you also have to be worried about these 3. So I'm not going to say toot the horn of the team's talent, but in that structure, we're very hard to defend against. We also are very easily countered in that structure
in general. That structure is hard to defend because you have people coming at you. Let's say if you're the defensive line, you have people coming at you in front of you. And then you have people coming in from the sides, running in behind you. So you don't even know where to go. Are you going to come here or are you going to protect the space? If you protect the space and you leave them in front and then they can shoot, if you go, then you're letting yourself vulnerable and behind.
And the only problem with this is the counterattack, because defending with 4 is very dangerous. And it's not a flat line of 4, it's 3 with the sweep.
No, well, it can't be. If you're a flat line of 4, then you're just leaving a central space alone.
So we have the 3 line with 1 in front of them, and it's really dirty ditch defending. But our offensive structure and patterns are next level, which is natural based on the coach that I am. It's just the way that it's probably going to turn out, right? It's look at them attack. It's so detailed.
You have tennis.
It's so ditch defending.
You have tennis match scores, bro.
I do.
6-4, 6-5.
6-5.
Well, 6-5, you have to win by 2 in tennis, so not really.
Listen. We scored 12 goals this last week. We conceded 6, but we took 2 wins.
I got to be proud.
That's something to be proud about.
I got to be proud that my team hasn't conceded a goal in open play yet.
That is, yeah.
We've only conceded, I'm not going to say the word, but only conceded goals that have been from dead ball situations.
Okay. I'm
to
just
say the least.
I love that my team scores lots of goals, It's fun for me. It's also the style of play. Like I had mentioned to them, do we want to play a little bit more like my style? Because if we do, it's like Johan's quote through and through is like, I would much rather win a game 6-5 and have it open than play the 1-0 win. Like I just would. It's more entertaining for the footballers, it's more entertaining for the fans, it's more entertaining for the coach. I want football to be this way. But if we can't finish the chances we create, we lose by 6 goals and it looks ugly. So it's one of those things where, like you said, it's unsustainable. I say it's risky, but depending on depending on how well we manage it, I believe it to be sustainable. There are certain games where we play the 3-4-3, so it's a diamond in the middle with the 3-4-3. There's some games where we turn that diamond into a square in the center, and we ended up with 2 6s and 2 10s rather than 2 8s, a 6, and a 10. And that's all based upon if the defensive structure feels the opponents are exploiting the wide areas very well. The wide areas very well.
Huh.
Because if
I wonder why.
Because if they do that, we have a serious problem on our hands. We have to change our structure in order to meet the width. And there is the reason you create width in offensive thirds. This is like you have to create a problem for the opponents in the way that they're defending. You also have to create depth because if they have a back four line with a 6 in front of them, they're not going to be overly weak in the wings, but they're very likely to be penetrable through the middle. And so your depth is the person that's going to be able to receive in tight spaces, turn on the final line, create shots, and make the opponents want to condense centrally. Well, if they start doing that, the widths become high priority zones again. So always do we come back to this concept that like width space being created within matches is so incredibly important. And it doesn't matter necessarily who's there, it matters that somebody is there. So
That's it, because guess what? What if, even if he doesn't get the ball, is the fullback going to be closer to the defender or to the guy that potentially could get the ball?
That's it.
And that opens up the space. That's the exact way, that's the exact reason why that W shape is so powerful, because guess what? Most teams, in what formation do they play in? Most teams play in a 4-3-3. Some teams play in the 3 back, and that just means 5. For me, that's
it's like a 4-3-3 with the Titan.
4-3-3.
Yeah, it's just a Titan.
Look. There's only 2 ways you could play. You could play with 4 in the back, or you could play with 3 in the back. Those are the 2 ways.
You can play with 5 in the back.
But that's 3. But
5-3-2, baby.
same thing, bro. 5-3-2, 3-5-2. It's all the same in my book. It just the starting formation is just like we talked about. It's just a starting position. It doesn't define, oh, you're going to be here all game, or you're going to be here all game. No, it's being able to fluidly move with your teammates.
Yeah, the system is much more important than the formation, because in the system of the game, which is once the game starts, how your players end up in different shapes, and you instructing them on what spaces to go to creates that system, is 10 times more important than the starting position.
And so the reason why you can even call it the W system, because it's not even a formation. Like, you need to know how to play that way to be able to actually exploit the other team.
I would call it an attacking structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an attacking structure because it finds itself in all systems.
And so the reason why that is so good is because if you have 5 attackers and there's 4 defenders, you are occupying the spaces in between the defenders already. So whenever the ball comes out to the far guy, then the guy next to him is the one that's going to receive the ball next.
It creates a dilemma. That's what you're doing for the opponent. And then I was talking about how it doesn't always need to be the winger. It needs to just be somebody. Imagine you're attacking with 5 in the W shape, and the left winger has the ball, and he goes for a diagonal pass for the right winger who's coming in towards goal. Well, now the width on the right side is being let down. And let's imagine that the winger that made the diagonal run, got to the ball but ricocheted it back to one of the attacking mids. We're in possession, but now we can't exploit that right wing because the right winger came in. Well, the fullback can then step up into that zone. Now we attack with 6. He creates the width. The winger who came in becomes a second striker, and we still have width on both sides, and we're just attacking with one more. So that's where I go, it doesn't always have to be him, because if it's always him, we're going to lose time in his repositioning, like you mentioned before. Why is he here? Then coming out here, it's too late. Well, then instead, have the next one fill the role and attack with the lot, right? It's the efficient way of managing the wide space.
Wow, today was a lot of tactics.
We did go into that kind of in depth.
This was something that I like to get off my chest, because it was just something that I had pent up this weekend, where it was just like the tactics were not it. And going back, if you believe in what you actually do, you're gonna make chances out of it. Like I asked the boys. I probably already mentioned this last week, but does Man City ever go a game without creating a chance? Never. Never.
Massively, they still created two.
Even then, they created 2 shots, and they were like pretty decent shots.
They were.
Like Haaland could have scored that one, like 8 times out of 10. So like, they're always gonna create chances by the way that they play. You have to believe in that, whether you're 2-0 down, 3-0 down, whatever circumstance may have happened. Because if you start changing it, what do you really expect to happen? If you try to change something and you haven't even like tried it in the practice, you're just winging it. Like, what do you expect?
It's like starting a new drawing from scratch and hoping that it's better than the one that you've been working on. You know, it's like it's not really feasible. And then one of the things that I recognize is I firmly have a belief in the way that I play. Like, it's firm as firm can be. I think it's one thing when I come to teams, players can sense. They're like, oh, wait, he actually knows exactly where he wants us to be and when, and they feel like obligation to meet those demands. Well, in the last seasons that we spent together, we had a team that arguably struggled in games. The results weren't turning our way. But within my style, as I was teaching it, it could not be said that we weren't creating chances. The chances were being created every game in and game out, but they weren't being taken game in and game out. So when you have a firm belief in your system and the way that it works, you'll see all of those moments that could have turned into goals, and if you're seeing those moments, you've actually done something successful. If they don't convert, that's past your power, because you're not in the lines playing the game in the moment. But if you're being able to create the moment, you should find some solace and success in the fact that those chances are being created. And it's like your firm belief in your system leads to those chances being created. And the more that you recognize the ones you're trying to create and they create themselves is an empowerment of your belief in the system that you run. And so I find it very important to recognize just the moments in which you create the chance, not just take it. Now, we talk in depth about what taking the chance means to the result of the match and the game itself. But when it comes from a coaching standpoint, it's way more important that you're recognizing the intent, that the intent of the moment was, and that they did create, but it was hit this way incorrectly, or passed past this post, or the keeper made a great save, or all the variables that sit in front of that moment, right? It's one of the things that I constantly remind myself of to stay strong in my belief to my style of play. Not necessarily positioning or formation, but style. How do we decide on the things that we need to based upon situations? Because are you going to turn under pressure and take on your one-on-ones more, or are you going to play the way that you're facing more? Yeah, it depends on the team that you're on, 100%. And so it's all about self-belief in your system, which leads to the belief of the players creating the chances, which leads to taking the chances to winning it. It's like the full force thing.
Now that we went really coach-centric, and then we should switch our gears. Same topic though, but going to a player-centric way of looking at retaining and maintaining your dominance. Decent way to say it. I feel like some kids are just born with talent in this game, and they're born with talent that I say is God-given luck, no? At the end of the day, it's just how you were born, and some kids really are blessed to be able to play at such a high quality of football at such a young age, and those kids get looked at. Those kids get put up on better teams than, let's say, little Jimmy or little Johnny that had just started playing soccer just because his friend took a ball to the house, or because he saw a soccer game at his house on TV.
Yeah, it's a really hard topic. It's like, I guess I was asked a pretty impactful question, which was like, do the top players stay at the top, and vice versa? Do the bottom players stay lower? And my gut immediately after 10 years of coaching soccer was like,
yeah.
That's a really hard question to answer, because if you're at the top and you're training with the best and you're already at that level, then
why wouldn't you be getting better?
You're receiving this top level of development and also competition. It's accelerating that process. But there are ways that top player ends up moving out of that team or losing opportunity based on burnouts or not liking the coach at hand or the program itself, and the opportunities arise on those teams. There's also the sense that when they go from 77, 99, 11v11, the rosters increase in size, and so more opportunities appear during that phase. For the latter half, the lower on the ladder, they have a harder job, because not only do they have to develop this talent that maybe they weren't born with, so it's more like skill. They have to develop their skill and their craft.
The basics. They have to develop the actions in the game. Because were you born with knowing how to kick a ball?
No.
Did you know how to dribble with your outside or with your inside, or pass with the inside, or control? Like, all these things are skills, right? They're not like something that nobody can learn.
You're
you know?
born and you know. And it's one of those things, like, I struggle with the thought, because the latter half has the harder job, for sure. Because maybe they weren't born with that talent, and or they started later. Either way, they have the harder job of climbing the ladder. And climbing the ladder is a challenging thing to do. I explain it to people in a setting like this, is you have two players at the same club in a 5-year period, and they're placed on the same team. Well, they both experience the same level of football and development within year one. And one feels that he deserves to climb to the next team at the end of the next year, and the other says, I'm okay doing what the club feels is best for me. Year two, the one that says he was okay staying, stayed, and the one that felt he deserved more went. Well, the guy who went is now entered a brand new environment and doesn't know the level of competition, the quality coaching, of what he's going to get. And the guy that stayed has showed commitment to the club, that he's able to take on the position and role that he has, and see if he can continue to grow within that set environment, that team. Can he get from mid-table to top table? Year three, this guy comes back and he wants to get that team that this guy just moved on to. He's moved up after 2 years of showing his commitment, working through the teams. This guy comes back and he's going to start one team below, because he left and now he came back. Not because the level of competition that he went to was lower or higher or whatever it was, but because he wasn't putting the time in with this club. And this club is prioritizing the people that prioritize them. Year four, these guys both excel in their rosters and they're doing well. Well, they're taking another jump forward, but he's still one ahead of them. Now we're going to say this guy's at Team B, this guy's at Team C, year four, and the development factor that he's getting across Team B, higher level competition, good coaching, good tournaments, all of this, is leading him, and then maybe even practicing occasionally with the A team in scrimmages, is leading him to be in more settings with that team. And now, let's say they jump from 7v7 to 9v9. The first guy on the list for the A team is going to be this dude who's been committed, working his way through the club, accepting his role on each team given by the coach, not causing too many troubles on placement. And then when his opportunity comes, it's given. Now, you see how that whole journey, that 5-year journey, is so challenging for those two people, but the one that treats it, you could say, correctly, gets to climb up those ladders faster. Whereas, let's take the same picture for the A player in that 5 years. It's likely every year he's with that A team until maybe he feels he deserves to go to an MLS next league, or he deserves to be at a top club in the country, or he burns out because it's way too serious a football for him. Well, then he goes. But those are way more few variables for the A player to lose out on his opportunity than all the variables of the lower player trying to make their way to the A.
Yeah.
And we talk about start. When did the kid start playing? That's a big deal. Like if you started at 1 and 2 with a ball in your crib and you were like learning to walk with the ball at your feet, and you got to 3 years old and you were starting to play and organize teams, by the time you're 6, you're actually going to be somewhat of a baller. Like you're going to know the ins and outs of the game. But a lot of kids are just starting at 6 for the first time at kicking a ball.
Yeah.
So there's your gap that's already
and
been
created. Even then it's crazy because some kids start at 13, 14, like.
And I see some of those kids be absolutely amazing. So that's, there again, is talent. God-given or born with, right. And then skill. It's a very strong skill to be the ladder player who starts at the bottom and learns to climb the ladder to get higher.
That tells something, that says something about you as a person, you being able to actually climb. Because climbing in this world, like in day-to-day life,
it's the way of the world, isn't it?
Is so, but like imagine, climbing the ladder is so hard and there's so many levels to the game. Whatever career you choose, doesn't matter. You could be a musician, you can be a coach, you can be an ice skater. There's so many levels to it, and there's so many people wanting to get to that level, and there's only X amount of spots in that level. Yeah. Something that I love is Formula 1. In Formula 1, there is only 20 drivers for however many thousands of people that love to race karts. Imagine that. 20 of the best people in the industry are in the top machinery. And you know what's funny?
Very few.
And you know what's even funny too about that? Some of those guys, they probably shouldn't even be there. Some of them probably know someone that's really, really freaking rich that can put them there.
Yeah, connected.
And so it's not only about your skill. It's not only about your technique and your talent and your hard workingness and your effort. Who do you know?
And a lot of people would say, well, that's not right. But also, we all live in the world.
Welcome.
And know that.
Welcome.
Unfortunately, that's the way that it does go a lot of the times. And it's one of those things that, like, we'll go back to that player who's struggling on climbing the ladder, but he does it, and he does it in the right way.
Imagine in the 5 years, all of the 5 coaches, let's say 5 coaches that he's been with because he's been progressing up the teams. Imagine what all of those people have to say about that kid that actually made the jumps. Instead of the one that came in, came out, not fully in, not fully committed.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say. What is, not just the comments and the marks that they get from the staff, but like, what has the player himself developed?
He's a monster, man.
Discipline.
The mentality is a monster.
To own my role, to know what I need to do to get to the next one.
To go from the bottom to the top in a group. To do that, dude, that is tough.
And so what you develop through that journey is discipline. And when you get to the top, you need to have that discipline already set. So you could make the argument that if you don't do it that way, you actually haven't developed the skill that'll keep you there yet. And so that you need to learn what is the process, and then you need to trust the process in order to develop in a matter, both as a character and as a footballer, in order to be able to stay in that environment long term.
I want to say something about some of the top players that stay at the top. Do you think, I'll even ask you guys this question, do you think that, let's say, the player that's the top player in his high school is going to be the best player in his college team? Do you think that player in his college team is going to be the best player in his semi-professional team? Or what about in the professional team that he joins? There is so many levels and so many people that are out there that are probably better than you that you just got to be ready to say, hey, well done today, but guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to outwork you. And I'm going to close the gap that we have between you and I.
Yo, I remember that so vividly. I was at the peak training period of my life at 17 and 18. Club ball, top level.
In high school,
premier,
being
in high school,
the guy.
senior, playing for my team, like nonstop, running track across country, fit as can be, like top dog of most of the teams I'm going to now. Like treating it seriously, signed a college scholarship, headed out. I get there, and all of a sudden, I went from top dog to bottom of the chain again.
I was about to say another word, but yeah, you said it best for the PG, you know.
Right. I went from top G to the bottom G, man. Like, and I have been working like a madman for the last 2 years, where everybody's going out and they got their girlfriends and they're driving and they're doing all the other things. And here's Zach, headphones in, ball at the field, on his own, juggling. So I put the time and work in to get to the top at where I was at the current time, but it was an eye-opening experience to arrive to college and be like, yeah, and then looking up going, all right, here we go again. I got to do this again. And the past experience of knowing what it meant to climb the ladder and what it takes made me feel prepared to take that ladder on the next level, because I knew how to start at ring 1, and then ring 2, and then ring 3. And then have the conversation at ring 4 with the coach saying, hey, I have high aspirations for what I want. And then getting him to give me feedback on the things I need to work on. And slowly trusting the process to get into a starting role by mid-season my freshman year. Which, by the way, is incredibly challenging. A roster in college can have up to 33 guys. Only 21 of those guys are rostered for the season and really get to travel and play throughout the year. And as a freshman, normally you're redshirted because you're one of those other 12 guys. But I was one of 2 freshmen within freshman year to be brought in, and one of 3 actually, to be brought in and playing consistent minutes. And so for me to come in the summer and at the bottom of the ladder of 33, and then by fall, 2 or 3 months later, climb my way into that top 21, it was a depiction of the things I had learned in my club and high school days on how to trust the process and climb the ladder. Because I think that every player within the game has that on their mind. How do I get to the next level? At least in a competitive state or mindset, they do. Some are okay with just enjoying the match, and that's all good. But it's for those that are hungry to continue to develop and grow that this conversation is pertaining to.
I'd say my last little comment on this topic, because I feel like we touched the points we wanted to. I'd say that when you get that call from your coach, when you just tried out for a team, and let's say you get that call of denial that you didn't make the team, or you didn't make the team that you wanted to, and you get that initial feeling in yourself of maybe the coach didn't believe in me, whatever that you may have towards other people, I want you to look at yourself. I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to write down those emotions that you're feeling. The emotions that you're feeling at the moment, right then and there. And I want you to hang that up and be like, you look at that and be like, yeah, that was the rejection, and that's what I felt. For me, whenever I'm feeling an emotion like that, it could be a quote-unquote negative one, like anger or like being upset, I like to use that emotion in a positive way instead of suppressing it or using it in a negative way. So for me, very simple one, going to the gym. Going to the gym when you're mad is a whole nother level of pump that you get on, because you feel something even more than like an internal motivation. You're ticked off, to say the least. You're like, you want to punch a wall or punch a punching bag, and you're just gonna push a weight that's so hard that you're just gonna feel the muscle fibers inside of your body breaking while you push it. That for me is something really powerful, and that's something that I feel like the younger generations are not being taught. I definitely wasn't taught that. I was definitely taught like, hey, when you feel those emotions, like you shouldn't act out on those emotions. You should keep them inside of you. Use them positively, because you're gonna have them either way, right? Use them.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like what you're talking about in my mind is a release. You need to release the emotions in which you're holding, and the gym is a good place to go and release those emotions, to go and use them, and to create energy, and also in that frustration grow strength. So find a beneficial way to utilize those emotions and get the release in which you're going to go and gain growth of some sort. For me, it wasn't always the gym. I also sometimes grabbed the ball in my headphones and went juggling on the field and just needed open space, my own mind, and the ball to just clarify some things in my mind, and really solidify who I was too, which was like spending more time with the ball. And then with the gym, it was this consistent thing. Like I hear players, they say, oh, I don't need to go to the gym if I'm a footballer. I never really looked at the gym as strengthening my body per se. I always looked at the gym in the sense that it was strengthening my mind every time I went. It's like I would train twice a day. I'd run for track. Late at night. It's like 7.
Why are you training your mind? Because you're pushing weights. How would that be training your mind, man?
Yeah, it's more of just it's a mentality that it's a self-belief. It's a creation of oneself. As you're strengthening your muscle fibers and putting yourself through the struggle on my own accord, I know I'm gaining strength through this struggle. And it's really a mind growth experience, because when you hit rep 7 or 8 and you're running out of energy and you got to push to 10, I go to 12, it takes everything mentally to push through those moments and not physically. Like, you're already out physically. So how do you muster the strength? It comes from your mind and your thought processes. And so if you're repeating that process in each set for 90 minutes every day or every other day, well, really, that's a repetition of mental strength too.
I think that's a good whole nother episode, because
my dad would love that.
There is so deep. That is such a deep. It could be like a whole mini series if you wanted to pick it apart. There's so many things about the brain that people neglect.
Like, my dad was an avid gym dude. Loved it. Like, more than most. And when I started picking it up, like loving it, I decided that my style of lifting would be bodybuilding. I like time under tension and visceral growth. That's what I enjoyed. My dad was more strength. He was like, I'm a strength lifter, power lifter. I'm trying to see how high I can push those numbers. But either way, the fundamentals in which he was teaching me in the gym when he first brought me were all strength and mind training things. It was, okay, you're at 8, get to 10. And I'm dead, I can't get to 10, but I'm going to try. And then the next day it's like, all right, you're at 10, get to 12. I'm dead, but I'm going to try. And then it's not just with reps, it's also with weight. Okay, last set you did 70. This set you're doing 80.
So
and
like
Dad, last set I
couldn't. The simple way
you can.
The simple way to break it down is like it's actually mental, because you're doing something that you don't want to do. And the brain is going to go to want to do something that the body feels nice in, that the body doesn't feel that the body doesn't feel stressed in, right? So it's mental, because you're doing something that you're telling, you know what, brain, screw you. I'm going to put you under stress, and I'm going to do it because I'm going to push myself, literally the neurons in the body and the brain, to do it.
And it's over and over and over again for 90 minutes. And as a bodybuilder, they say, well, really shouldn't be in the gym longer than 90 to 2 hours. But when it's time under tension, you can. Because if I'm in the gym for an hour doing legs or running, cardio, and then another 30 minutes, 40 minutes doing core, well, then I can try and squeeze in a 40-minute bicep workout. But the reality is, by the end of the 90-minute period, and I'm maybe spending the extra 40 minutes on top of the 90 doing bicep, well, I might not get all the work out of the bicep that I wanted, but I'm sure going to get some mental reps on pushing my body past its limit. And that was one thing, I think, mental strengthening, that when I was in college, I still lifted during double days, and my coach would be like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, listen, I have this sense of self-belief that even when I'm done, I need to give more. And if I continually do that. Even on my practice days, when it comes to the game and it's the 80th minute and there's nothing left in the tank, Dana, you're going to see me give more, and I'm not even going to be able to tell you where it's coming from. It's an internal motivation that I'm telling my brain and body that I don't care how you feel, you're going to do this, and you're going to go there, and you're going to shoot this ball. Even when my legs felt like rubber, my brain would take me. And that was the mental fortitude from doing more than was asked of me on any given day on a regular basis for multiple months in a row. But mental fortitude and strength is hard to manage and grow, because you can push past, you can go too far and hurt yourself, and it can be detrimental. So you also have to have the sense of being able to listen to your body and know where is the limit.
Be professional. Boiling it all down, just being a professional in every aspect. Not only in, that's maybe funny, in how you train, in how you play, how you have fun too.
And
Why not?
How you live.
Yeah.
And how you live.
Because if you don't have fun when it's your time to have fun, then you're gonna goof around when it's your time to be working.
And one thing, professionalism is taught. It's learned. It's not just understood. And
no, we're born animals almost.
Yeah, and I would say that my biggest fault and greatest lesson in becoming a full-time football coach and manager was the lesson of professionalism. And Gwen, who was my head kind of boss for initially at the Barcelona Residency Academy, worked with me profound amounts on what it meant to be professional. And I think for any young man or woman in this world, learning what it means to be professional is learning how to work within the business realm and world, or even in the sports realm and world, to get what you want. Like we talk about trusting the process in order to get what you want. Well, that means acting and behaving like a professional, even in that small, more minuscule environment. So it's like professionalism is one of those things that you need to be taught, or you need to ask questions and learn about. Because if you're someone that, like me, responds often before thinking, it could cause a lot of harm when trying to become professional or trying to behave professionally. Professionalism is about making sure that you're having a proper conversation and using the right terminologies with the proper tone, and making sure people can hear you and that you are heard as well. And when we just react, it's not always very professional, and so even for me, 29, not 30 yet, 29, few months, and still have a lot of growth to do.
I heard something from a friend. Where he said, once you turn 26, you're really 30, man.
The back 20s are tough.
Like you're already there, dude.
It's not the case.
You're already there.
No.
Just own it.
No.
Because it's happening.
I know.
Inevitably.
No.
It's there. It's here right now. It's outside like the Amazon guy.
No.
Just ringing the doorbell. Hey, open up.
I'm not ready. I'll be straight up. I can't imagine that I'm already 30. It doesn't seem as if that much time has passed. And I guess I always know.
You still think you're little Zachary, Jens?
Time is our most valuable currency, right? And I remember being a high schooler playing in my senior league like it was yesterday. So it's amazing to think that almost 15 years has passed since then, or more like 13 to 12. But still, it's a little bit astounding to me that so much time has passed. And that's why time should be counted as your most valuable currency, because it's fleeting. And it goes so much faster than you will ever expect. It's almost as if the days get shorter and the days get longer and the years get shorter somehow. It's like all of a sudden you have more responsibilities throughout the day, and then before you know it, a whole year has passed. And you're like, man, it used to be like a day and a year felt like forever. And now it feels like bang. And it's almost as if more years you live on the planet, the faster each year in front of you will go. And that's where I'm concerned about being 30 because, well, if the years go faster than they did already, well, that's a scary thought because the past 30 years went by like so quick, like a blink of an eye almost.
Damn, you're old, dude. You're freaking 30. You're 30, man.
I know.
That's scary.
I know. I'm like, that's
I think before we make it like a therapy session, I think we gotta end the episode on that note, you know? Because I feel like we had a great detailed episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even know what the topic was, but we just kept on drilling it.
I think we found the topic
subconsciously.
somewhere within 15 minutes.
I know, it was nice.
Of the podcast. And,
it was good.
This has been Pitchside Prospects.
Well, hold up.
I don't think we said it at the beginning.
We definitely didn't. Because we were just going. We just started talking about Liverpool and then
let me go.
Everything was beautiful.
And sink.
Where can we find you, man?
You can find me at ZJ Kaizen at Instagram, or you can find me at us at Train Zone Sports on YouTube. And what about you?
Coach JCKM at JCCrewM. This has been Pitchside Prospects, the Youth Football Chronicles.
The Youth Football Chronicles.
Dude, we gotta get like a sign or something. I keep on saying this.
We gotta get a neon sign for the whole bit, but
for the studio once we get the studio.
We want to thank all of you that have subscribed and are tuning in week to week, and for those of you who are new to it, please tune in and hear us talk about football week in and week out. You know, the ins and outs of youth football, the ins and outs of what's going on at the top, and then anything in between.
Hey, we love those loyal viewers, though. We know who you are.
Absolutely.
Eh? And you know who you guys are, too, eh?
We appreciate you more and more every day.
Every episode, man.
Yep, that's right. All right.
I got to come on the overhand. I had to come on the overhand.
You see, without the ring, it's good.